بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم والحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على أشرف الأنبياء وأعز المرسلين حبيب إله العالمين على العبد المؤيد والنور المسدد المصطفى الأمجد أبي القاسم محمد صلى الله عليه وعلى آله الطيبين الطاهرين. أما بعد، فيقول الحق وقوله الصدق في محكم التنزيل. بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. قتل أصحاب الأخدود النار ذات الوقود إذ هم عليها قعود وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود وما نقموا منهم إلا أن يؤمنوا بالله العزيز الحميد. صدق الله العلي العظيم. آمنا بالله ورسله. To accelerate the reappearance of our awaited Imam, Ajjalallahu Ta'ala Farjahu Sharif, I request we recite 3 salawat with the loudest of our voices. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters in Islam, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. History is the study of the past. It is basically the study of the narrations of the prior nations that existed and the rise and fall of such nations. Scholars who write about history are referred to as historians, and what historians do is that they analyze a sequence of past events or a narrative, which is basically a sequence of past events, and then they dissect why and how or why and how or where it occurred. And you would notice that prior to the religion of Islam in the Arabian Peninsula, that the study of history was from local sources, is that the Arabs, the way they were exposed to history was always from the local sources. The Arabian society was situated between the two most dominant empires in the world, the Roman Empire, the Eastern Roman Empire, and the Persian Empire. And basically, the Arabian society was a society of traders. So what those people would do is that they would travel around in terms of business, and then they would come back. When they would come back, they would have a lot of stories to tell. Now, on the other hand, that those stories that they would tell were dependent on the side of the victors. And you might always hear this, right? Is that history is always written by the victors. And therefore, they would always narrate for example, the victors of the Persian and Roman empires. They would always narrate the side of the existing party, right? Is that they weren't ever exposed to the side of the victims. They did know that there were nations that did exist in their area, such as Thamud and Ad, didn't they? They did know that there were people called Ashabul Aika. They did know that there were people called Ashabul Ukhdud, or the Christians of Najran. They had the knowledge about this, yet they didn't have the exact details about their accounts, simply because the way they were exposed to history is not in details. And therefore, when the Quran was revealed and the religion of Islam came to the Arabian Peninsula, they looked into a different perspective of history. The Quran presented to them with a perspective that they were totally oblivious about. The Quran mentioned to them the side of the victims, not only the side of the victors. The Quran made them aware about always making connections between the past and the present. And therefore you would notice in Surah Yusuf, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says what? Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةً لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ. Indeed, in their narrative or in their account, there has been a moral. But for who? For those who possess intellect. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on the spot is telling us what? Is that when you hear a narrative in history, always use your intellect. Always make that connection. For history is always not mentioned only for the sake of history. It is always, we emphasize in the religion of Islam, that history should be a lesson to learn. Yes? And therefore you notice that Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim لَقَدْ كَانَ فِي قَصَصِهِمْ عِبْرَةً لِأُولِي الْأَلْبَابِ مَا كَانَ حَدِيثًا يُفْتَرَى. And the direct speech to the Arabian society, that this is not a fabricated speech. Yes? Why? Because the storytelling style was always exaggerating, isn't it? Is that a lot of people, when they would come and they would tell stories, they would always exaggerate. They would always make up stuff sometimes, isn't it? That it wasn't an accurate account. So Allah is telling that it is not a fabricated account. Yes? ما كان حديثا يفترى ولكن تصديق الذي بين يديه. Yet it is a confirmation from the prior information that you've known. Meaning what? That there are information that you were exposed to, be it from the Christians or the Jewish people in the society, and this Quran is to confirm it. Yes? And moreover, it is to mention a lot of details about it. And therefore you would notice that many of us, for instance, when we look into history, we all know about, for instance, the incident of Abraha al-Habashi, isn't it? Is that many of us might understand that Abraha al-Habashi attacked the Kaaba, right? And in this very same year, the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wasallam was born. Is that many of us know that the Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam was born in this year. It is the year of the elephant, yes? But what brought Abraha al-Habashi to the Kaaba? Is that why did Abraha al-Habashi wake up one day and decide to attack the Kaaba? The religion of Islam always wants you to understand the background of things, right? And mainly when it comes, for instance, it is important to preach this theory, mainly when it comes to our modern generation right now, is that you would notice that many of the generation right now, all what they want to do is the generation of modern day technology, that everything is present to them fast. If you need anything right away on the spot, you Google something and you get the answer for it. Yet when you understand the background of things, you will become enlightened and you will be aware of what goes around you. Is that there's many slogans that you can hear, yes, but you need to understand the background of them. Is that there's many titles that you might be exposed to, but you don't know the background of them. That the history, you need to understand that history even has an influence of media, over media. History has an influence over marketing. History has an influence even over the garments that we wear, yes? Now, what is the most popular sports garment that everyone wears? Isn't it Nike? Isn't it? Yes? So many of us, have you ever asked yourself a question that when you take your children shopping, or when you go shopping yourself, or where did that Nike word come from, right? Now let's go back to the year 490 BC. Many of us have watched the movie 300, isn't it? Remember that movie? Is that this is Sparta, right? In the year 490 BC, during the first Persian invasion to Greece, what happened is that the Greeks were involved in the Ionian revolt against the Persian Empire. So in return, the Persians attacked them, led by King Darius I. What happened is that when they sailed to Greece, they landed in a town called Marathon. That town called Marathon, that's where the Persian army landed. Now in return, the Greeks, they went and they asked for help from the Spartans. Is that you might know that the Greek society consisted of three main states. It was Macedonia, Sparta, and Athens. The Athenians considered the Spartans barbaric. Why? Because Sparta was a military state. Sparta was a state based on military activity, that everyone in the state should be a soldier. On the other hand, when they were attacked by the Persians, they went and they asked help from the Spartans. So the Spartans came to their help. What happened is that they faced the Persian army in the town of Marathon. They used the tactic in war where they bracketed the Persian army between two mountains, simply because of the fact that this is how they always aligned their troops, right? So they were able to defeat the Persian army, long story short. What happened is that one of the Athenian soldiers, or the Spartan soldiers in fact, had to run back to Athens, and tell them what? To basically tell them about the victory that occurred. Now the distance between Marathon and Athens, so the soldier ran that distance, covering 26 miles. Yes, in the Olympics, one of the competitions you run is what? It's called marathon, isn't it? Yes. And what's the distance that you run? It's exactly 26 miles. Yes. When he arrived to Athena, he yelled out Nike, which means victory in Greek. And therefore you have the brand name, yes? So the majority of the times is that understanding the background of things give you a tangible idea about what you're being exposed to in your modern times. And what we'll do tonight, inshallah, after this introduction, is that we will dissect this topic from the following angles. Is that number one, what is the Islamic perspective on studying history or historical events? Number two, what is the story of the people of the trench, Ashab al-Ukhdud? And number three, we shall ask the question, is that was the Kufa society during the time of Imam Hussein alayhi salam or Imam Ali alayhi salam, Imam Hassan alayhi salam considered a Shia society? And before we proceed, I ask you to recite aloud salawat, please. So number one is that what does Islam want you to understand when it comes to studying history? Is that what is the point of this? And why does the religion of Islam always want you to draw your attention when it comes to certain historical events? The message is clear and simple. The first message is that you will learn and understand and dissect the narrative of the previous nations and the previous generations that existed and learn how to avoid their mistakes. Yes, and therefore you would notice that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala mentions the stories about the nations in the past. And then He always insists on bringing out or coming out with a moral behind it. Is that there's always a moral to learn from this. You will notice that Allah insists on always mentioning the story of Musa and Fir'aun. You would notice that the reason of one of the reasons of mentioning the story of Musa and Fir'aun, it's simply because there's always this clash between evil and good. Notice that Nabi Musa alayhi salam, what did he face during his time? He faced three main forces of evil. And if you reflect, you would recognize that those three main forces of evil exist in every nation, exist in every generation. Is that the first force of evil was what? Was Fir'aun. Fir'aun resembles what? He resembles the corruption on a government perspective. A tyrant that rules with brutality. Now the second evil force that Nabi Musa faced was As-Samiri. As-Samiri resembled the deception, the media. Yes, the one that is able to influence the thoughts of the people. And therefore he was able to do what? To deceive the Israelites into worshipping the calf. The third force of evil that Nabi Musa alayhi salam faced was who? Was Qarun, the one that we dissected his narrative in previous nights. Yes, he resembles the corruption in terms of wealth and in terms of money. So basically what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala always wants us to focus on is understand the mistakes that occurred in the past and make sure you avoid them. Number two, which is very important, is that not only understand the mistakes and avoid them, that always understand that who was on the path of haqq and make sure that you learn and you resemble this path of haqq, that you join that every path of haqq that exists. Yes? Remember what we talked about in some previous nights, is that in every conflict there exists three sides. That one of those sides is what? The side that sits on the side and just watches and observes. The religion of Islam doesn't want you to be that side. It wants you to always on focus. That's why it constantly repeats the stories of the prior nations, is that understand who was on the path of haqq and always join this path of haqq. Yes? And therefore that's the second message. Third is that the religion of Islam also wants you to learn a lesson in terms to apply in your daily life. Is that a lot of the historical events that occurred, you can learn those lessons and even benefit from them in your daily life. And that's why the religion of Islam doesn't want you to always look into historical events from an emotional perspective. Meaning what? Meaning that there's two ways to look into historical events. Number one is the emotional perspective, is that every time you look at a historical event, you become emotional about it. Yes? Number two, which is the logical perspective. Meaning what? Meaning, yes, you might come across a historical event, yet make sure you're always logical about it. Yes? Make sure you always reason about it. Do not base everything upon your emotions. You have to detach yourself from your emotions. Yes? When you detach yourself from your emotions, you will understand the reason of historical events. Meaning what? Meaning if you think about it back in the days, is that why would Imam Hussein alayhi salam take Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam with him to Karbala, right? Is that it wasn't something known. And if you want to think about it on an emotional perspective, you might come up with many conclusions as to why did he do it and what was the reason for it. Yet when you think about it on a logical perspective, you'll understand that Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam had a great role to play on the land of Karbala. And I came across a very interesting article, an article written by a British journalist during World War II. His name was Edward Montagu. Edward Montagu writes this really interesting article. He said, when we dissected the tragedy of Karbala, we studied the characters, the most effective characters in the tragedy of Karbala. And I want you to focus on this. And again, as I said in the introduction, always try to make the connection in your modern day. So when we came to the women that were present in Karbala, yes, they do study a lot about us, don't they, right? Yeah. When we came to the women that were present in Karbala, on the land of Karbala, we realized that the most influential character of them was Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, or Zainab, a woman called Zainab. And then we came to the speech that she gave in front of Yazid. And we realized that Yazid had the power. He was the ruler. He was the tyrant. Yet Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam stood in front of Yazid and she said with utmost certainty, Edward said, he says, with utmost certainty, that you shall never erase our remembrance. Yes? Wallahi lan tamhuwa lana dhikra. Isn't it? Is that Sayyidah Zainab? That's what she said to Yazid. She said that you shall not erase our remembrance. Yes, the second thing she told him is what? وَلَن تُمِيتَ وَحْيَنَا. And you shall not kill our revelation. And in his mind he said, and then we started thinking, is that what kind of level of confidence did she have? Number two is that what kind of certainty? Why was she so certain that this was going to happen? Or was she absolutely 100% certain that this was not going to happen? Meaning the remembrance of Ahlul Bayt will always stay. And then we looked more into Sayyidah Zainab and we realized that Sayyidah Zainab resembles, according to us in the West, she resembles the Virgin Mary. Right? She's the resemblance of the Virgin Mary. And Yazid is the resemblance of the Western liberal practices and culture. In what sense? Yazid resembles alcohol, insisting on alcohol, as you might find that we live in a society that every time there's a celebration or even a commemoration, that there's always an insistence on alcohol. Alcohol has to be present in everything. Alcohol has to be present in every event that you go to. In restaurants, people, every time they want to express their happiness, what do? They want to drink. This is the way they express their happiness. And one observation I just came up with is that when you go and buy, let's say, for example, a pack of cigarettes, and hopefully not, is that on the pack of cigarettes, what do you see? You see an image. The image of what? The image of a person dying from lung cancer, let's say, right? Or an image of a pregnant woman showing that this might cause a disease in the child if she smokes, right? And so forth. Yet when you go buy a bottle of alcohol, which hopefully not, hopefully you don't, yes, that why isn't there an image of an abused wife? Yes? Why isn't there an image of an abused child? Why isn't there an image of a person who died in a car crash due to impaired driving? Is that you don't find those images on bottles of alcohol, don't you? Right? Is that why don't you focus on this? Is that one of the observations you make is that you don't find a person who's addicted to smoking killing his children, or let's say, for example, from a car because of impaired driving. And you don't find a person that's addicted to cigarettes, let's say, for example, abusing his wife for a cigarette or his children. Yet an alcoholic does the exact same thing. Yet do you find that there are awareness about this? No, never. Why? Because there's an insistence when it comes to such culture, yes? And there's obviously a financial benefit that's coming from it. And that's why you're not going to find that there are basically programs of awareness when it comes to this. Yes, you might find seminars about it, but is it being advertised in alcohol places? No. Or places that sell alcohol? Of course not. Yes? So Edward Montagu continues and says what? Yazid resembles the Western liberal culture. Yes, alcohol is that he openly speaks of it and he openly practices it. Yes, Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam resembles the Virgin Mary. And then he continues and says, yet with the difference. The difference is that the Virgin Mary wasn't political. Virgin Mary didn't guide a political movement. And therefore she is never a threat on the Western culture. Why? Because we can always refer back to the Virgin Mary on an emotional perspective. You understand why I said the difference is what? When you're examining historical events, make sure that you always separate between the emotional perspective and the logical perspective. Yes, there is always an emotional connection you might find with an account or a narrative. Yet after this, what do? You use your logic. Then he continues. And then we realized that the Zainab guides a political movement. And the Zainab is a threat to the Western civilization. And to not only a Yazid, she is a threat to every government that resembles Yazid. Isn't it? Yes? And every tyrant that resembles Yazid. And therefore the conclusion is what? We needed to kill Zainab another time. Subhanallah, right? You see, when ISIS first entered Syria, when they were reaching to the shrine of Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, what was the slogan? We want to kill Zainab another time. And you wonder where those ISIS came from. Who was funding them? Where did they appear from? How did they just came into existence? Yes. But I'll tell you how. Is that after September 11, what did you start hearing in the media? It was always, by the way, one of the signs of deception is repetition, meaning when you repeat something and you insist on it. What were you hearing in the media all the time? Radical Islam, fundamentalist, yes? Versus what? Moderate Muslim. And then a lot of people would always say, no, I'm not radical. I'm a modern Muslim. Yes, as if there is something called radical Islam and modern Islam. You know, I've said it one time in a speech. It was in the parliament. I said, if it's radical, it's not Islam. There's nothing called radical Islam. And if there's nothing called a modern version of Islam. There's actually Islam. You are a Muslim. You resemble, what you do is that you represent Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala on this earth. Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam says what? Is that every Muslim is an ambassador of Islam. Yes? So nothing called. But because of the fact that there was a radical Islam created, then you know what? The best way to always keep on repeating it in the media, and then what you'll do is that you'll have a group that always want to detach from that radical Islam. Isn't it? So on the other hand, what they start saying, no, we're modern Muslims. I'm a moderate Muslim. So what do you mean? I don't understand. I'm a modern Muslim. I pray Dhuhr 2 rak'at only. I'm a moderate Muslim. I'm cool. You know, I'm nice. If you slap me on the right cheek, I should turn the left. Isn't it? Yes. That's the reality. I don't understand. So when Bin Laden bombed the two buildings, did they build another 2 buildings and tell him, please, come and bomb them? No. Isn't it? Yes. And what did that justify? That justified the invasion on the war of Iraq, where you found that even American officials went down in processions on the Arba'in of Imam Hussein. Yes, mashallah. So it's wonderful. Government officials, that they were given the pulpit to speak on the Arba'in procession of Imam Hussein. And what did they say? They made the comparison. Focus on this. They made the comparison between Saddam and Yazid. Said that, you know what? Saddam is like Yazid, right? And all the Shias in the procession were so happy. They clapped with joy, right? It's wonderful. That's true. So it took them 30-some years to find out that Saddam is the likeness of Yazid. Yes? Was Saddam the likeness of Yazid when he was attacking Iran? No. Was Saddam the likeness of Yazid when he invaded Kuwait? No. Was Saddam the likeness of Yazid when he massacred the Kurds? No. When he massacred the Shias? No. Was he the likeness of Yazid when he killed Shaheed Baqar al-Sadr rahmatullah alayh? Yes. That he I don't even know if he left anyone from al-Sadr. Yes. No, he wasn't the likeness of Yazid. That was not our business. Yet as soon as Saddam, you know what needed to go down, is that he's the likeness of Yazid. Now another observation is that who found Saddam? We all know who was funding Saddam in his war against Iran, right? And who found Yazid? It's Muawiyah. So basically, if I were to get rid of Yazid, please do not bring me Muawiyah, yes? Right? Because at least Yazid is a clear enemy. Yazid openly used to say, and by the way, read the biography of Yazid. Yazid was not like Muawiyah whatsoever. Muawiyah was cunning. Muawiyah wore the cloak of Islam. Muawiyah wore that cloak. Muawiyah used to be eloquent in his speech, yes? Muawiyah used the religious perspective. Yazid never did. Yazid openly said, I drink and I play with monkeys, and this is what I want to spread in the religion of Islam. This is what I spread in the Khilafah, in the concept of Khilafah. This was Yazid, yes? It is said that, let me give you an example. If you look back into history, that when the white colonial powers entered Africa, they wanted ivory. When they wanted ivory, they had to study the elephant as an animal. So they realized that the elephant is a big animal, and yet it has short legs, right? So what's the best way to hunt the elephant? Is basically to dig holes and let the elephant fall into the hole. Why? Because the elephant cannot climb up from the hole. So that's what would happen. The elephant would fall into the hole. What would they do? They would paint their faces black. And then they would torture the elephants, starve the elephants, let the elephant cry from thirst, not water the elephant, not cure the elephant. Yes? And then 3 days later, it would come back, and what would they would do? They would bathe the elephant, water him, give him food. So what does the elephant think? In his mind, black is bad, because an elephant never forgets, right? Black is bad. White is what? Good. So that's when the elephant came back to them. So the elephant started going to them. And that's how they got the ivory, right? So basically, sometimes there are people that know they're the ones who created. The only reason why they know how to get rid of a problem that in a place is simply because they're the ones who created it. Yes. So going back to that, Edward Montagu. Edward Montagu said that. So we realize that Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam, that image of Zainab has to be killed. Yes. How do we kill the image of Zainab? Imagine he wrote this article in World War II, prior to World War II. But during that time, right? Yes. How do we say Zainab alayhi salam? We create a modern version of Zainab. How do we create the modern version of Zainab? We keep the hijab of Zainab, yet we advance it. And whoever insists on the character of Zainab, they are labeled as what? As radical, fundamentalists, backward thinking. They're not modern enough. They cannot mingle in the society. They're not really coping with the advance of society. Yes? So be aware of such a thing. Such thing really makes a difference. And this is why we insist on always repeating back when it comes to certain historical events. To be aware of this. And this is why you would notice that the Ahlul Bayt made sure to always insist on narrating the tragedy of Karbala. You would notice that, for example, Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the land of Karbala, the battle, the army of Yazid wanted to start the battle of night. Imam Hussein alayhi salam said, no, let's do it in the morning in the daytime. Why? Imagine the battle happened in the daytime, and what we got from Karbala was very little. Now, we don't know a lot about Karbala, by the way. We don't know much about Karbala. There's many things that we were still oblivious about when it comes to Karbala. So imagine if the battle only happened at night. Yes? Because you're living in a society at that time that the media outlets were always against Ahlul Bayt. The media outlets, the same thing that you hear nowadays with the media outlets, is that as a Muslim, you're always under attack, right? And the only way to be a good Muslim, and the only way in order for you to shine as a Muslim, is if you denounce something about the religion of Islam. If you denounce something about the religion of Islam, then trust me, you're given a media platform, right? You're given a media platform. You're given connections, whatever you want, right? That's the reality. So Imam Hussein alayhi salam insisted on this. Why? So he can ensure on the tragedy that's going to happen. Imagine you lived in a society. By the way, one of the examples I would like to give is that later on, after the martyrdom of Imam Hussein alayhi salam, it is narrated one time Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam was sitting in Medina, and then there were people that approached him, and it was during the month of Ramadan, and they asked him, when is Laylatul Qadr? Yes? They asked him, when is Laylatul Qadr? So Imam Baqir wanted to reply. Then a man amongst these people, he looks at Imam al-Baqir, you know what he asked him? He said, do you even know what Laylatul Qadr is? No? Imagine. Could you imagine? Do you even know what Laylatul Qadr is? The same thing that you hear nowadays. You might have friends from other communities, yes? As soon as they know you're Shia, why? Do Shias even pray? Right? Do Shias fast? You guys know, I swear to you, I'm not kidding. I used to have a friend of mine from a certain community. So we were friends for almost a year. He asked me, are you fasting on the 10th of Muharram? I said, no, I'm not fasting on the 10th of Muharram. He said, oh, how come? I said, what? How come you're fasting? I said, I don't know. I'm just fasting because that's the way I was raised. I said, okay, well, the way I was raised is that we don't fast on the 10th of Muharram. So what do you mean? He said, well, I'm Shia. And he was shocked. And this is a person that was applying for his master's in a university. Imagine, an international student studying masters. Subhanallah. So what do you mean? I said, what do you mean you're Shia? I said, I'm Shia. He said, are you serious or are you joking? I said, no. I am, trust me. I'm an earthling. I'm a two-legged creature. I walk, I sleep at night. I drink water. I need food to survive. It's normal. I'm Shia. He said, but I saw you praying. He said, yes, we do pray. And I kid you not. I mean, there's things that honestly, I'm too shy to even share with you. The things they started asking me. But one of them was so ridiculous to the point he said, but you don't hide at night. So what do you mean we hide at night? He said, well, I heard that you guys hide at night on the roofs. I said, on the roofs? I said, yeah. I said, no, I don't know. That's Spider-Man, not Shias. You know? Basically, some people have a misconception. Many misconceptions that sometimes they might have. And the unfortunate reality is when they're studying masters. Yes. Imagine a student of masters. He didn't have the time to actually open up a book and study and read about others. Yes. And that's why you hear this a lot. That's why, are they kafir? Are they Muslim, right? Rafida, rejectors. You hear those terminologies a lot. Yes. Why? Because there's a plan. There's a plot behind it. Yes. When the Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia openly says what? is that we were asked by the US to spread the Salafi version of Islam. And now, no, it's not. And I'm sure, no. Now we're asked to change that version of Islam. Yes? When a renowned scholar from Saudi Arabia openly says that I am calling right now, I'm openly denouncing the religion that I used to follow back in the days and what I used to preach, and I am openly following the religion of Muhammad bin Salman, not Muhammad bin Abdullah. It's Muhammad bin Salman, isn't it? Very interesting, yes. And where's the society? The world society? They're all quiet about it. What happened to those Salafis that as soon as you say something like this, yes, they go crazy? Is that how dare you not follow the religion of Muhammad bin Abdullah? That's the reality of what's happening in the world. Why? Because these were things that used to always occur back in the days and nowadays. There were scholars that would gather around Muawiyah and would tell him that you are the one who would decide everything in the religion. It is not the religion of itself, yes? Or Al-Hajjaj, or people like those. Is that they always existed in history. And sometimes, don't be shocked, by the way, is that many of us, for instance, might be shocked is that look at what people say about us. But sometimes, with all due respect, unfortunately, what we say about each other, that's a sad reality, yes? Remember, a friend of mine is a convert, and he told me that, obviously, when he became Shia, he said that when I was following the Sunni school of thought, they would always warn me from Shias. They say, do not sit with the Shias, do not mingle with the Shias. Shias, and I swear to you, by the way, it is interesting that they told me Shias are people of logic. They're logicians. Imagine that's a bad thing. To be a logical person, that's a bad thing. You shouldn't sit with a person that's logical. Right? Shias are people of logic. They know how to speak. They know how to convince you of something. Right? And they always want to convince you to cry. That's not what they want to do. Right? They always want to convince you. That's reality. He said that that's what really pushed me to read about Shiism. And then I read about Shiism. He said, but then when I converted to Shiism, I know deep inside my heart that this is the path of haqq. Yes? But then as soon as you would step into the Shia community centers, and obviously I'm not talking about this very blessed community center, you break that stereotype for sure. And then he said that right away. He started telling you, do not go to that Husseiniya because they follow that marja. Right? Do not go to this center because they follow that marja. Do not go to that. They would tell me this all the time, to the point that I realized that the politics involved in the middle is too much, right? And you find many people are like this. Many people do not like the idea that you might have different views than them. And I don't understand why. You see, if you have certain political views, that's for you. That's my job is not to convince anyone with what I feel, with what I believe, yes? Or my job is not to really preach it, yes? And if you follow this marja, what difference does it make? Yes. Or if you mention the scholar, what difference? Trust me, there are times that I was invited to places, yet the condition was, I swear to you, they emailed me a list of scholars that I cannot mention. So what do you mean? He said, well, you cannot mention those scholars. I said, so what do I do? Tafsir of the Quran with what? What do I say? Ayatollah Wael? Seriously? Is this what I say? No, you cannot mention the scholar. You cannot mention that. Why? Because people get sensitive. Yes. And then the sad reality is that they're academic. The reason I gave you an example of a friend of mine studying masters is literally because he's an academic. And the same thing within our own community is that when you're an academic, one of the first rules of being an academic is what? Being open to information. Is that learn. You don't have to agree with every scholar. Obviously, you're not going to ever agree with every scholar. Yes? There was a beautiful clash of thought between Shahid Mutahhari and Dr. Ali Shariati, wasn't it? We all benefited from it. Yes? They didn't agree with each other, but they didn't hate each other. They didn't cancel each other. They didn't annihilate each other. Yes? May Allah lengthen his life, Sheikh Haidar Habballah. He has a beautiful article. He talks about the theory of annihilation. You know what does that mean? The theory of you don't agree with someone, annihilate him. Cancel them. Yes? You don't agree with that scholar if he says something, cancel them all. You don't agree with that speaker, cancel them. You don't agree with that sheikh, cancel them. It's unfortunate what's happening in our Shia community. It is really unfortunate that this drama being involved, what is it doing? It's really causing more division in the Shia community. So there's that theory of annihilation, meaning cancel them, right? On the spot. Why? I don't understand. Meaning you're an academic. The first methods that you learn in the academic field is what? Is that being open to knowledge. Is that learn from everyone. Try your best to learn from every source. And again, you don't have to take everything. No one is forcing you to take everything. But you cannot ask me to not mention icons of knowledge. You cannot ask a speaker or a sheikh or a writer or an author not to mention icons of thought. Yes, you might not agree with certain things they do. That's different. You might not agree with their views, with their political views. That's different, yes? You cannot accuse a person of only showing up to the Husayniyah of just being political, right? Or of just, for example, being involved in politics. What does that have to do with this? Husayniyah is the house of Hussein alayhi salam, isn't it? Yes. So this is the reality of things, unfortunately, yes? And then unfortunately, sometimes even, and then when it comes to converts, it's another story. This friend of mine told me other things, yes, because it's unfortunate that as soon as we see a convert right away, the first thing that comes to our mind is that he's a spy, right? He's definitely a spy. Especially if he's from the West, be it from Africa or Caucasian. Right away, is that, you know what, he's a spy. There's something fishy about him. Right away, let's put question marks, right? Well, you might be a spy, accusing someone of being a spy, right? Doesn't work. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. It does exist. But it can be everyone. Yes? Is that people not really waiting for a convert to employ them as a spy, right? Or even some people, for instance, they have a certain criticism when it comes to certain things. For example, is that the way they would criticize, be it a sheikh or a scholar or a philosopher or let's say, for example, an author, has nothing to do with the academic perspective. Yes? Let me give you an example. Is that Dr. Al-Wael, may Allah bless his soul, he says in one of his experiences, he was lecturing in a city. And then he had a Q&A. So a person came up to him and he told him what? And he said, Maulana, I love your speeches. He said, thank you. He said, but there's one issue. There's something that I don't like. Dr. Al-Waeli thought that he's going to disagree with him about something he said. A way, for example, or a theory that he said. He said, sure, what is it? He said, your nose. I kid you not, by the way, he mentions it. He said, what do you mean? He said, your nose. Your nose, when I'm looking at you at the screen, it looks too big. Such people do exist in this life. Wallah al-Azim, they do. That when it comes to criticism, let the criticism be constructive and academic. Not criticism about something that has to do with, doesn't have to do with anything. That at least when you criticize from a knowledgeable perspective, yes. Now be constructive in your criticism. Subhanallah. And that's the reality, right? And that's why you find some people approach them, the sheikh, how could I trust him? Well, let's say, for example, one of his family members doesn't pray. Yes. And it's as if that has to do with anything. So if you were to live in the times of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam, you won't believe in the message of Nabi Nuh alayhi salam. Nabi Nuh's son wasn't on the same page as Nabi Nuh. In fact, he died as a kafir. Didn't he? Yes. It's unfortunate what happens sometimes in our community. It's sad and it's causing more division. And it does cause more division, yes. And it makes us develop another ideas. Is that right away you want to test someone? Is that what is their line? What do they believe in? What is their perspective? Why? I don't understand why, right? So basically I did have a list of scholars that I cannot mention, right? I cannot mention this scholar. I cannot mention, let's say, for example, Shaykh Mutahhari. Imagine that you're not influenced by the philosophic perspective of Ayatollah Behishti, for instance, yes? It's really sad. Why? Because some people get sensitive, yes? And the same thing with our communities. And the same thing with other communities is that if you mention the scholar, then you're labeled. That's the sad reality. There's an art of labeling. The art of labeling, you know what? When you refer back to the Quran, again, as I said, go back into history. Fir'aun, when Nabi Musa alayhi salam stood in front of him, okay, the first thing he criticized is his clothes. He said that, well, how is it that you stand in front of me wearing these clothes when you claim that you're a messenger of Allah? Then, you know what he could have told him? Is that when Nabi Musa alayhi salam showed him a sign, Fir'aun right away labeled him magician. That is such a sad, that's such a sad tool of deception that you can use. And it does happen. Is that, you know what? Let's label someone right away. Magician. And then what? Repetition. So going back to what happened with Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam. That man asked Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam, why do you even know what Laylatul Qadr is? Yes. You know what Imam al-Baqir alayhi salam replied back to him? On the spot, he didn't explain to him what Laylatul Qadr was. He told him, how would I not know what Laylatul Qadr is when in that night of Laylatul Qadr, the angels circumambulate around us, Ahlul Bayt. This is the concept of Laylatul Qadr. The Imam of the time. So that's the first point. The second point is that what is the story of Ashab al-Ukhdud? The verses that we started with says, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, Qutila Ashab al-Ukhdud, the people of the trench. The verse that I started with is mentioned in Surah Al-Buruj. Yes? And what we need to understand is, as I said, we asked the question, is that what really brought Abraha al-Habashi to attack the Kaaba? There was a king in Yemen called Dhu Nawas. Dhu Nawas was from the kings of Bani Himyar. The king decided to convert to Judaism. He became Jewish and he changed his name to Yusuf. What happened is that he announced that the official religion in the country should be Judaism, and everyone should follow the religion of the king. And then people came to him and they told him, well, there are people in Najran, in north of Yemen, that follow Christianity, and they apply the Bible as being their book. Yes. So he said, then I want to march to them so we can force them to convert to Judaism. So what he did is that he marched to the people, and then he offered them to convert to Judaism. They rejected. They said that we want to stay Christian. He said, okay. Then what he did is that he dug trenches. Some narrations suggest that there were 40 trenches that were dug. And then he lit them on fire, and he gave them an option. Either you leave Christianity, or you shall be thrown in fire. Yes. So arguably speaking, that was the first Holocaust to ever occur. And then they refused. They said, no, we want to stay Christians. We do not want to become Jewish. We do not want to convert to Judaism. So what happened is that there was a brutal massacre, yes, and a brutal Holocaust, as we said. So people were thrown into fire. The narrations say that only one person survived, and it was a Christian priest, and his name was Daus. Therefore, you notice Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in the Quran, what? قُتِلَ أَصْحَابُ الْأُخْدُودِ. Reflect on the verses. Perish are the people of the trench. النَّارِ ذَاتِ الْوَقُودِ. The fire abounding with flame. إِذْ هُمْ عَلَيْهَا قُعُودٌ. While they sit and they watch. Yes? So imagine the level of brutality that they were sitting and watching people getting burnt. Women, children, men, elders. They were all getting burnt alive. النار ذات إذ هم عليها قعود وهم على ما يفعلون بالمؤمنين شهود. And as they themselves witness what they did to the faithful, meaning they were enjoying the scene. They were looking at what's happening. وَمَا نَقَمُوا مِنْهُمْ. Focus on this beautiful expression in the Holy Quran. Yes? وَمَا نَقَمُوا مِنْهُمْ إِلَّا أَن يُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. And they were ruthless towards them only because they believe in the one and only Allah. You see, the Quran is referring to the Christians of Najran as what? As mu'mineen. Yes? إِلَّا يُؤْمِنُوا بِاللَّهِ الْعَزِيزِ الْحَمِيدِ. Meaning they're mu'mineen. Yes? So that's what happened. Now that priest that fled, or that priest that was able to run away, and I said his name was Daus, he traveled and he fled to the Eastern Roman Empire. The emperor at that time, Justin I, he told him what happened to the Christians of Najran. And the Roman Empire obviously was a Christian nation. So he promised that he's going to avenge what happened to the Christians of Najran. And then he told that man, he said that the Roman Empire is far from Yemen. Yet I shall give you a letter. And in this letter, you travel to Abyssinia in modern day Ethiopia, to Al-Najashi. Al-Najashi was the king of Abyssinia at that time. And then he gave him this letter. And then when he gave the letter to Al-Najashi prepared an expedition that consisted of 70,000 soldiers. The leader of that army, who was it? Was a man called Ariyat. One of the generals of the army was who? Abrah al-Habashi. And then they marched to Yemen. They defeated Dhu Nawas. Yes? And they took over Yemen. And then Ariyat became the governor of Al-Najashi in Yemen. A while later, Abrah al-Habashi revolted against Ariyat. And he dethroned him and he sat in his spot. And Najashi wanted to punish him. But then he promised Al-Najashi and he wrote a contract that he will be an obedient governor. And then to show his loyalty, he built the largest Christian church. When he built the largest Christian church, he called the Arabs to come and perform pilgrimage in that church. Now, as you know, that the Arabs at that time, they would respect the Kaaba. Yes, be it Jews, Christians, or even the Arabs themselves that didn't follow religion. They would go and they would circumambulate around the Kaaba. Yes? So that was their custom. So he wrote letters to the leaders of the tribes of the Arabian society and asks them that to stop doing pilgrimage in Kaaba and then come do pilgrimage in the church that he built in Yemen. Now the leaders of the tribe, they didn't agree to it. So he threatened them. They didn't listen. And then this is what really caused him to march with an army to where? To Kaaba, with the intention of what? Of bringing down the Kaaba. And this is what led Abraha basically to where? To Mecca. And you all know what happened with that army and how it was defeated and how Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent those birds and that whole army was defeated. And basically what we understand from this is that those historical events, they took place for a reason and they were mentioned in the Holy Quran for a reason. That Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is telling you to be aware of such historical events. And look how everything is all connected to each other. Why? So when you are being exposed to a certain theory or an understanding, then if you have a knowledgeable background, you do not fall into deception. And this will not cause you to have division in a society. Meaning what? Meaning when you hear, for instance, that it is the Shias that killed Imam Hussein. Don't you hear that a lot? You hear that a lot in the media outlets, in TVs, in certain articles, that even some of them prove that the Shias are the ones who killed Imam Hussein. Yes? And even Shias themselves, they say, who killed Imam Hussein? They're the Kufans, right? Don't you hear this a lot? Those divisions that are caused always in our community, yes? You Iraqis killed Imam Hussein, yes? We don't get along with you, right? You Lebanese, I don't know, looked at the captives of Ahlul Bayt and didn't do anything about it, yes? Persians do not get along with, I don't know, anyone. You know, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. No, honestly. You know, a lot of people might think I'm racist. I'm not. I just hate everybody equally. That's what I am. Anyways. Right? So Persian, we don't get along with them. They do chai different, right? You know, a lot of people, I swear to you that one time I was in Toronto and it was during the month of Muharram after the 10th. I looked at my friends from the Pakistani community. I said, I want to do matam. Let's go do matam. He said, yes, where would you like to go? Karachi Imam Barga or Punjabi Imam Barga? I said, wait a second, what do you mean? He said, there's a difference. I said, what do you mean there's a difference? He said, yeah, there's a difference in the way we do matam. I said, are you serious? I said, even there's a way different? Subhanallah, yes. Lebanese, no, don't mix with this. Because it's unfortunate. Seriously, it's and this is why I said, it's really impressive to see those beautiful faces every night here. The diversity. And this is what causes strength in the community. The more diverse it is, the more we understand each other and we learn about each other. The more we study about each other. Yes? And that's the whole concept of history, right? So a lot of people might hear this, you know what? Or, for example, the racist slogan, Kufi la yufi, right? You hear this a lot. Is that if you come from Kufa, then you have no loyalty. Right? Why? Because they killed Imam Hussein. It's always like this. That's always the case. So let's look back into just a brief points about the historical background about Kufa. During the time of Imam Amir al-Mu'minin salawatullah wa salam alayhi. Is that was the Kufan society a Shia society to begin with? Yes? And this is what leads us to our third and final point. Is that the first thing, if the Kufan society was a Shia society, why would Imam Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam on his deathbed tell Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, Bunay Hasan ghayyib qabri? Right? What does he tell him? Tells him, oh my son Hassan, hide my grave. But why would Imam Ali alayhi salam tell him, you know what, Bunay Hassan, my son Hassan, cover my grave, hide it, hide my grave. Yes? Is that if it was a Shia society, then no, Imam Ali alayhi salam should tell Imam al-Hasan alayhi salam, no, keep my grave, build a shrine on my grave. No? Imam Ali alayhi salam tells Imam al-Hasan that even the way you when you bury me in secret. Why? Well, if the Kufa society was a Shia society, then they should march in the funeral of Imam Ali alayhi salam. This is their Imam, isn't it? Is that why is that? And then he even tells them that even when you get to a spot, you will find a grave that's already dug. Meaning don't even dig a grave. Don't make noise. Don't cause attention. Yes? That's the first thing. And that's why, by the way, subhanAllah, until this day you hear this. That you know what? This is not the shrine of Ali ibn Abi Talib. Unfortunate, I swear to you. Some historians try to prove that the shrine of Imam Ali is the shrine of who? Who's buried there? Al-Mughira ibn Shu'bah. Al-Mughira, again, it's important to study those personas in history, by the way. It is very important to dissect those characters in history. See, Mughira ibn Shu'bah, he was the governor during the reign of the second caliph, Umar ibn Khattab, on Kufa. Yes? Mughira ibn Shu'bah was caught committing adultery by 4 people. Yes? When he was caught committing adultery by 4 people, he was brought to the Khalifa. When he was brought to the Khalifa, they all bared witness. They gave shahada. The first person, the second person, the third person, and then the 4th person's turn came. In Islamic fiqh, if the fourth person gives the shahada, then Mughira ibn Shu'bah shall be punished, right? If not, then what happens is that they all get punished. Why? Because the Islamic religion wants you to be 100% sure before spreading a rumor, or before accusing someone, or before slandering someone's reputation, or before committing ghiba, or before committing namima. Yes, a gossip. Imam al-Sadiq alayhi salam says in a beautiful narration, "An-nammam qatilu thalath." A gossiper is a killer of three. قاتل نفسه وقاتل من سعى منه وقاتل من سعى إليه. A gossiper is a killer of three. He kills himself, and then he kills the person that he transfers rumors from, and he kills the person that transfers rumor to. Yes? Islam wants you to be 100% sure before you claim anything. Right? And therefore the punishment of an adulterer is the same punishment on a person that accuses a person of doing adultery. Yes? And then he or she ends up being wrong. Or he ends up being a false witness. So what happens is what? Is that the fourth person came forward. When he came forward, the second Khalifa looked at him and he said, what? Focus on this. He said, I see nur on your face. A nur that I could see piety. And therefore, you should not expose a person from the companions of the Prophet. Yes. Nur on his face. Do you know who was that fourth person? Again, so you can understand what really happened. What really led to Karbala? What really led to this tragedy? What really led that, a person can stand on the land of Karbala and slay a child without even hesitating? Because there's a build-up to Karbala. There was a build-up, wasn't it? Yes. So he looks at him. You know who this person is? Ziyad ibn Sumayya. Ziyad ibn Abi. The father of who? Ubaydullah ibn Ziyad. There's nur on his face. Subhanallah. Remember, like one of my teachers one time was sitting. He said, I'm surprised about your community. He was visiting us. So he traveled around Ontario. He was lecturing in every city. He said, is everyone Nabi Yusuf in this community? I said, why? He said, that's all what I get asked. That everyone wants to translate dreams. Everyone sees dreams, day and night. Maulana, I saw this dream. Maulana, this is the dream that I saw, right? Said that. To the point that I told a person, or someone told me, Maulana, I think I have the traits of Nabi Yusuf in me. He told them, but I don't have the traits of Nabi Yaqub. So don't even test, right? Yeah? So he saw nur on the face of Ziyad ibn Abi. Ya Allah. Yes. Mughira ibn Shu'bah, at that point, obviously, what happened is what? They were lashed. Is that the witnesses, they were punished. Anyways, long story short, the same Mughira ibn Shu'bah later on in years was sitting in the court of Muawiyah. And then he told Muawiyah, have you organized your matters? He said, what do you mean? He said, did you find out who's going to take the leadership of this ummah after you? Muawiyah said, no, I didn't. He said, well, I see no one better than Yazid, your son Yazid. Yes. As we mentioned, birds of feather flock together. They need someone that looks over their desires. Someone that's going to protect their desires and their illicit acts. Yes. So he tells him, you know what? It's your son Yazid. He says, so what's the best way to do it? He said, don't worry. Now watch this. Ziyad ibn Abi refused to give the fourth witness, the fourth shahada. Therefore, Mughira ibn Shu'bah was off the hook. Mughira ibn Shu'bah, what does he tell Muawiyah? He said, I guarantee Kufa for you. And Ziyad ibn Abi will guarantee Basra. Yes, in return of what? That Ziyad, and was written, by the way, that as you know, that Ziyad, he was known that Ziyad of Sumayya. He didn't have a father. No one knew whose father was. But Muawiyah told him that, you know what? We'll make sure to write you Ziyad, the son of Abu Sufyan. And he became Ziyad, the son of Abu Sufyan. Right? And then he said, you know what? Ziyad will guarantee Basra. Right? And then you guarantee Sham. And that's how we do it. That's how Yazid came to power, subhanAllah. So that's the first reason, is that Imam Ali alayhi salam tells him what? Is that hide my grave. The second reason is what? Is that the Salat al-Taraweeh. Imam Ali alayhi salam stepped one time into, as soon as he took he removed the government to Kufa, he stepped into the masjid. What were people doing in Masjid al-Kufa? They were playing during Shahr Ramadan, Salat al-Taraweeh, Nafila. Right? They were praying it what? Jama'ah. Right? Imam Ali alayhi salam, he said, what you're doing? So they're playing Salat Taraweeh. said that it's haram to pray a nafila jama'ah. You cannot pray. The whole masjid, the narration said, one voice, wa sunnata Umarah. Oh, the sunnah of Umar. He said, well, you know what? If this is the sunnah that you're following, I follow the sunnah of Muhammad. If that's the case though, then keep on doing your salat al-tarawih. Yes? So if the Kufa society was Shia, then wouldn't the fiqh perspective be also derived from the Ahlul Bayt school of thought? Yeah, no, it wasn't. They made masjid what did not follow the fiqh perspective of Ahlul Bayt. A third reason is what? Is, for example, a persona like Shaykh al-Qadi. A persona like Shaykh al-Qadi, he was the judge appointed by who? By Umar during the second reign, the reign of the second Khalifa. He was appointed there. When Imam Ali alayhi salam said that this is a corrupt judge and I need to fire him, yes, the whole Kufa went into a protest. Is that how dare you fire someone that was appointed by the second caliph? Yes? And I'm not going to go on with the rest of the reasons. Inshallah, maybe we'll finish this in the coming nights. Yet, what I want you to understand and draw your attention is that when you find that what happened on the land of Karbala with that much brutality was simply because of what really led to Karbala. It was a school of thought that was implemented in the Arabian society. This is what led to Karbala. Yes? And this is what it caused Imam Hussein salawatullah wa salamu alayhi to end up alone on the land of Karbala. And when he ended up alone on the land of Karbala, the narrations say that he looked around him and he started calling out his companions one after the other. The narrations say that on the 10th of Muharram, when everyone died, when everyone was killed, Imam Hussein alayhi salam started staring at the bodies of his companions. And he would call them out, Ya Burair, Ya Hur, Ya Zuhair, Ya Muslim, yes. And then he would keep on saying that I have never seen companions like mine. Yes. And then Imam Hussein alayhi salam by himself went and wanted that he himself would be the last. And therefore when he went and he wanted to enter the battlefield, the narrations say that Sayyidah Zainab alayhi salam came to him and she had an infant in her hand. And she handed him to Imam Hussein alayhi salam and she said, oh my brother Hussein, that before you enter the battlefield, that take this infant, for this infant had not drank water in about 3 days. And then Imam Hussein alayhi salam took Abdullah al-Radi'a or Ali al-Asghar alayhi salam. Yes. When he took him, he stood in front of the army of Yazid. Hamid ibn Muslim narrates, he said, I saw Imam Hussein approaching the battlefield. When he was approaching the battlefield, he had something hidden under his abaya. And then when I focused, I realized that it was that infant, that he had an infant, and he was protecting him from the sunlight. And then Hamid Muslim narrates, and he continues, and he said, and then Imam Hussein alayhi salam raised this infant. And he looked at the people, and he said, if you were to kill me, you have already killed my brothers. You have killed my sons, my Ahlul Bayt. And then you killed my companions. Yet this infant didn't do anything to you. Yes. This is an infant that is dying from thirst. And if you do not trust me with the water, then you take him and give him water. Hamid ibn Muslim says, I saw Imam Hussein alayhi salam with his hand raised, and in it, he was carrying the infant. Yes. At this point, the army of Yazid split into two. Some would say, give that infant a water, and some would say, focus on this. Do not leave anyone from this Ahlul Bayt. Who are we talking about here? We're talking about the Ahlul Bayt of the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And then he continues by saying what? That then there was a split. There was in the opinions about it. Is that, should we give them water or not? Yes. Umar ibn Sa'ad looks at Shimr ibn al-Jawshan. And then Shimr ibn al-Jawshan yells out. He looks at who? He looks at Harmala. And he says, oh Harmala, cut this dispute. Yes. Now I want you to take you forward a little. When Mukhtar al-Thaqafi radwanullahi ta'ala alayhi captured Harmala, he said, Harmala, before I kill you, I just want to ask you one question. Didn't you feel sorry before you shot that arrow? Did you feel anything inside your heart? Yes. The narrations say that Harmala looked at Mukhtar and he said, "Oh Mukhtar, yes I did." Imagine that Harmala did. Yeah. He said, "Mukhtar, indeed I did." When? He said, "When I stared at the child, I looked at his face and I realized that he was covered from every angle. And then a wind blew Mukhtar. And then what did I see?" He said, "And then I saw the neck of that infant, and it was bright, and it was shining with whiteness. So then I stared at him, and I put my arrow in the bow. I shot the arrow, O Mukhtar, and it landed on the neck of Abdullah al-Radi'. And Ya Mukhtar, I saw the infant take out his hands and hug the neck of his father, Hussein, Ya Mukhtar. I saw the infant moving between his father's hands as if he was a slaughtered bird, Ya Mukhtar. Imam Hussein alayhi salam carried the blood of Ali al-Asghar. He threw the blood in the sky and not a drop dropped down on the ground." إنا لله وإنا إليه راجعون وسيعلم الذين ظلموا آل محمد أي منقلب ينقلبون والعاقبة للمتقين.